Remember good old days when I started learning Unity. YouTube were a lifesaver. I remember... what was his name? Brackeys! Let's see what's still trending.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
Yo devs, Raz here. I love games. Playing, making, breaking them, and I love seeing new devs grow. But let's be real. Most paid courses, hot garbage. Usually made by people who couldn't get hired, so they decided to share their knowledge. Now, I won't say that every course is trash. There are a few decent ones out there, but for most of us, it's self-education or nothing. So I went back to see what new devs are learning these days. And Jesus, most tutorials should be restricted on a governmental level. One of the most popular YouTube movement video tutorials ever made. I would even say just one of the most popular YouTube tutorials ever made. Yeah, I know, it's old, but beginners still follow it like gospel. And the bad practices inside, they were trash then, they're trash now, and this will keep spreading if nobody would take it out. That's why we are here, right? But before we dive in, leave a comment down below, hit subscribe button, and kiss your mom. She deserves it. Let me save you some time. He's got this character and he wants it to move, crouch and jump, while skipping the part where he sets up the scene and all this basic stuff. Long story short, he adds rigid body, colliders, to make sure that character sticks to Unity physics for the movement itself. Oh, here it comes. Brackeys creates a script using Unity's GetComponent. Can you do that? Yeah, for sure. But here's the problem. That script gets dumped straight into your root assets folder. Anyway, trust me, you don't want all your scripts to end up there in assets folder, because then it's gonna be more like a and your mama won't be happy. So eventually you'll need to move all those scripts into another folder and structure it somehow good and fix namespaces. You're not gonna do that, I know, you know, so why we gonna lie? That's why it's much better to create it right from start. Create your script from the IDE you are using, put it directly into the correct folder, and then attach it wherever you need. Now let's talk about another issue with Unity's GetComponent approach. When you create a script through Unity, it adds start and update by default. That's fine for the beginners, because it helps them see what the core methods of the engine of the mono behavior are, but you'll get sick of them really fast. First of all, Unity generates them without access modifiers. You must always include explicit modifiers for your methods, for your fields, for your properties, whatever you want. Why must? Because that's what the creator of this language says. Once you add the modifiers, here comes another issue. Comments about those methods. Here goes the rule tattoo on your brain. Comments in code should only exist if they are explaining complex business logic rules, like math formulas or weird edge cases. But definitely not when you're trying to say like, this method is being called once per frame. Brother, that's what the method name is for. Which leads to the next rule. If you feel like you need to write a comment explaining what this method is doing, that means that you probably, most likely, very most likely, have a bad method name. So you need to rename it to show in the name what it does. Yeah, it should be short name, but nobody restricts you to add their 3 words. And believe me, in 3 words, you literally can explain everything in this world. Except from women. Yeah, those methods start and update cannot be renamed, but you can create your own method and call it from there. And believe me, name update is very nice. Even though Unity have a lot of stuff that does, but this name, no excuses, it's pretty well. And the last thing here, ask yourself, do I need these methods right now? And right now means right damn now. Not in 5 minutes, not in 10 minutes, and surely not tomorrow. So if you don't need them, you must remove it, because it doesn't charge you a penny to get them back, fine? It takes a second to write them back. So if you don't need them, remove. And remember, you can evade everything by just creating a script using IDE. Now, a few seconds later, we hit the next issue, public fields. This is a super common bad practice and it can seriously screw you and your project. It violates one of the core solid principles, open-closed and single responsibility principles. But I know the shit is boring and you don't need to understand solid for now. I'm just gonna tell you as a law, your fields must always be private. Sounds not that hard, right? If you need to access it from another class, you're free to create a property with only getter. This way the value can be read, but can't be modified from outer scope. Keep your logic sealed. Don't leave your legs open. In this particular case, Brackeys makes it public just to stick a reference through the inspector. My boys, there is no need to make your fields public for that. Just add serialized field attribute to your field and voila, and you will serialize it and it will show up in the inspector. Problem solved without exposing anyone. To sum up, keep it simple. Private plus serialized field equals clean and safe. Not ideal. We'll talk about dependency injection another time. For now, good enough. Finally, now the actual movement. Brackeys says he will use update to capture input and FixedUpdate for applying movement. That's good. He even explains the difference between them.
And it works in much the same way as update. However, instead of being called once every time the computer draws a frame on the screen, it's called a fixed amount of times per second, hence FixedUpdate.
Actually, he misses main thing, actual reason. Because that theory sounds good, but what about the practice? And since we're trying not to just criticize, but also educate you something, here you go. If you put your input logic inside FixedUpdate, it might just skip frames where the button was actually pressed. You'll press a key and nothing will happen, because FixedUpdate might just miss it. So to guarantee that your input gets captured, always keep that inside update. Now, doing physics stuff in update is another mistake. Physics need consistency, and update depends on the user frame rate. So if machine drops FPS, your movement will behave differently. Slow machine, chunky. Fast machine, smooth. That's why input keep in update, movement in FixedUpdate. Oh, here we see Brackeys removing an unused method. Good job, Brackeys. I can tell some part of you is still trying to do a great job.
Great success.
But there is one more thing. Time to teach you how to place brackets. Brackeys. In C# there is only one correct way, on the next line. That's how Microsoft wants us to do in their language. Who the f we are to argue with the people who made the language? Yeah, that's true. I hate when people place brackets on the same line like it is Java. It's not Java, but what I hate more is that when they use both styles randomly. What the f? You can't even commit to a single bracket style. How the hell are you gonna commit to a girlfriend? Next up, this new field he adds called horizontal move. I'll try to not repeat about modifiers, so just keep that in head. But yeah, they must always be there. Now let's talk about naming. You should never name fields the same way if they have different access modifiers. Why? Because later on you won't like to go and look on their modifier, you would like to just realize it by viewing its name. Personally, I prefer using underscore and camel case for the private fields, and for the public fields using Pascal case. For example, here goes private horizontal move, here goes public horizontal move. Some teams use variations like m underscore and camel case, but the point is, don't name them same. It's a straight up bad practice, you'll confuse yourself and your teammates, and believe me, you, in a year, should be treated as your teammate, it's not you. Now let's talk about the input. It's accessed via hard-coded keys, jump and horizontal. First of all, if you're doing things like that, please declare them as constant string literal. This way, you don't make dumb typos when typing them again if you're gonna reuse them. Second, these days I recommend to think of using new input system. I'm not sure it was available those days, but okay. Just take it as a point. It's much more intuitive when you are working with different platforms, input controllers like a joystick or a keyboard, whatever. And third, input should be handled somewhere else. If you read input in this class for movement, and then you want to add shooting, you're probably gonna read input there. And somewhere else, something else. So you will end up with a huge mess of inputs. And it would be hard to remember what you call where. So the best would be to create some kind of input service and at the very least create some kind of mono behavior, just call it character input or just input manager and handle your input there. This way it's at least reusable, testable and clean as hell. Crouch was added the same way as jump, but my dear friends, just like with brackets, you must put the else keyword on the next line, right after the closing brace on the if, not glued together like it's some Java. Oh, that's all we've got in this video. Crazy, huh? How the damn is possible that code has more issues than the lines of code? But wait, you think I'm letting you go before knowing what's inside this character controller script? No way. Luckily, Brackeys was kind enough to leave us a link to his repo. Let's dive in.
12 seconds later.
What we see here is completely different hell. At the beginning of the video, Brackeys mentioned that he recommends downloading character controller scripts anywhere from the internet to save your time to focus on another feature. And apparently that's exactly what he did. So that's a nice chance for us to show why it is terrible idea, Brackeys. We'll try to do it quick. So first of all, we see a completely different naming style, which tells us, yeah, it was written by someone else. Maybe Brackeys hired some random Indian dude. With all love Indian devs, without you, nobody would learn programming and math especially. But hey, it's actually better here. There are at least some consistent naming convention, and guess what? No public fields. That's what I call the progress. Still, we're missing modifiers here. Why though? Was the logic something like constants can be public? Well, that's false. They also absolutely can be public, as well as not constant. So what the excuse is here, and now naming convention breaks again. I guess it was just too much pressure for our Liebe Brackeys to stick with it. In a wake method, we see him grabbing a reference to the rigid body using GetComponent method. Now listen, using GetComponent isn't bad by itself. It's pretty nice feature in the Unity. I like it. But if you're using it like this, it means that component is expected to be on this game object. And if it's not, then those are errors, unexpected logic, all this shit. So in this case, if you're using GetComponent, you must add at the top of your script require component attribute and add there rigid body if you need a rigid body, or whatever else if you need whatever else. That way Unity automatically adds this rigid body if it's missing on the game object while you are editing this script, doesn't let you remove this rigid body while the script is attached, and all this stuff. Generally saying, it saves you from missing references and random bugs. Alternatively, if the component might not be there, meaning you are gonna handle such situation in your gameplay, use try GetComponent instead. It will return you a boolean flag that indicates if this component exists here or not. But don't forget to handle this false response clearly. Here, we see how controller checks whether it's grounded using overlap checks with colliders and checking their layer. Now, to make sure it's the ground you're colliding with, yes, you are absolutely free to use layers. But keep in mind that layers amount is not infinite. It can end up really quickly if your project is big. Unity gives only 32 layers. Some of them are reserved for Unity itself. so you are pretty limited. And layers are widely used for cameras when you want to keep one camera on top of another and separate layers of them. So if you want to be safe, just add a marker script to this ground game object, call it like ground or whatever, and then check if the collider which you collided with contains this script. Another approach, raycasting. You may fire a ray downside your character feed and check if there are any colliders below him. Finally, the last thing we're gonna cover today is this monstrosity method called move. Absolute insanity. This whole video is about movement, and we only see the actual move, actual logic, here, in the character controller script, hidden deep inside the repo. And what do we get? A wall of if-else statements. It actually makes my eye bleed. If you ever find yourself doing such, listen, it's time to switch to state machine. I know that you probably don't know what it is. It's time to learn about it. It's a very good thing. At least use an enum for character states. It's not perfect, but it will make your logic absolutely cleaner, more scalable, and readable as hell. And then the cherry on the top of this method that triggers me more than broken serializer, I don't know. Magic damn numbers. Why is this value multiplied by 10? I mean, why not 9 or 3025? No one knows. Let's focus a bit left. Move. Now, if move means speed, maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe it's a nice idea to name it speed. Really? And if you're multiplying it, use a name constant or a field. Because right now, in my brain, in my heart, in my soul, I don't know what this 10 does. Or why it's even there. And frankly, I don't give a f until you explain it with the name in your script. That's it, my boys. We're done here. But are we really? Nope. There is still a ton of stuff that should be refactored here. Honestly, it would be way easier to write it from scratch than try to rewrite it. So the best use of those two scripts would be moving to the rubbish bin. What's next? Well, especially for you, I'm gonna refactor this whole mess, and I'm thinking of even posting a video of the process, how I'm doing it, maybe, and 100% posting source code. Where? On the Patreon. It's a nice chance for you to go there and subscribe. This way you're gonna support me and you're gonna get exclusive content, all source code for my videos, at the end you join the best community ever. But most importantly, stay safe and love your mom. Cheers.